Corporation, who is the company managing this challenge for the National Institutes of Health. The challenge is being sponsored by the NIH and the Wellcome Trust in association with Howard Hughes Medical Institute. Today's webinar will provide the background and purpose for the challenge, as well as additional information on what we're looking for in the challenge entries. Our first speaker today is Dr. Philip Bourne, the Associate Director for Data Science at the National Institutes of Health in the Office of the Director. Prior to coming to NIH, Dr. Bourne was Associate Vice Chancellor for Innovation and Industry Alliances of the Office of Research Affairs and a professor in the Department of Pharmacology at the University of California at San Diego. Dr. Bourne is a past president of the International Society for Computational Biology, an elected fellow of the American Association for the Advancement of Science, a member of the International Society for Computational Biology, and the American Medical Informatics Association. Dr. Bourne will introduce the NIH perspective. Next, David Carr, who is a policy advisor at the Wellcome Trust, will present the Wellcome Trust view. Mr. Carr leads the work to develop and communicate policy in several areas, including data sharing, open access publishing, biosecurity, and genetics. In 2001, he worked at the World Health Organization in Geneva, where he assisted in the preparation of the Advisory Committee on Health Research report on genomics and world health. Before joining the Wellcome Trust in 1999, David worked as a project researcher at a scientific consultancy firm in Cambridge. He has an undergraduate and a master's degrees in genetics from the University of Cambridge. Next, Dr. Fabiana Kufke, a neuroscientist and a senior lecturer at the School of Medical Sciences and a member of the Center for Brain Research at the University of Auckland. She will talk about the open science perspective. Dr. Kufke is a former Grass Fellow and editorial board member of the Brain Behavior and Evolution. She's currently serving as an academic editor in PLS1 and chair of the advisory panel of the New Zealand Creative Commons, a Kiwi remix on an international movement toward open access licensing and supporting the use of Creative Commons licenses in New Zealand. And then Dr. Audie Atienza will talk about the Open Science Challenge. Dr. Atienza is a senior advisor to the Associate Director for Data Science at the National Institutes of Health and a behavioral scientist in the Science of Research and Technology branch at the National Cancer Institute. He previously worked as a senior health technology advisor in the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Office of the Secretary. He's collaborated on health technology initiatives with the White House Office of the Vice President, the Office of Science and Technology Policy, the Office of the U.S. Surgeon General, and the Office of the National Coordinator for Health Information Technology. After these presentations, there'll be an opportunity for questions and answers. Please submit your questions via the chat feature or via Twitter or Facebook at the hashtag OpenSciencePrize. Also, a GitHub site has been set up to help people find collaborators for the challenge, and we'll post that address in the chat box for your reference. And lastly, today's session is being recorded and will also be posted to the OpenSciencePrize.org website. And now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Bourne.
Hello, everyone. I'm pleased to be here and make a few opening remarks about what is a very important initiative. I don't actually see the slides on my screen, so I'm not sure if you're seeing them either, but I'll just sort of pace through it in any case. I think it's really important to the NIH, and we'll hear from the Wellcome as well, because this is, I'd say, for two reasons. One, because we've had a long history of supporting open science in various ways, for example, through open access that we've promoted at the NIH to the literature, but also to, more recently, and ongoing policies associated with open data, for example, the genomic data sharing policy that's now in place. All of this is part of activities and related to activities that take place in the Office of Data Science at NIH, which I lead, reporting directly to the director of NIH. We're trying to establish essentially an ecosystem that's going to support, better support biomedical research in this digital era. And so that's very exciting, and I think the idea of the challenge is really to further stimulate that kind of activity. One of the things that I wanted to do in coming to NIH, where there was a working group that had looked into the longer-term objectives, what should happen around data science, was to really work with other agencies, both nationally and internationally. So it's a particular pleasure to be doing this with the Wellcome Trust and with the Howard Hughes Medical Institute. I won't go into a lot of the strategy that we're employing overall, but just to say that this is certainly an important aspect of what we're trying to do, and it's the people who make this happen, and we're really trying to foster collaboration among teams to use open content and really bring to people international collaborations, but also bring people who have not previously had a lot of interactions, perhaps certainly with the NIH, to work on this notion of the ecosystem. So it's really about fostering a new culture and new capabilities, and this challenge we see as a very important way of doing that. And I thank you for being here, but presumably with some interest in participating. And I'm hoping for a very vibrant set of submissions leading to some really interesting work. So thank you very much.
Great. Hi, everyone. This is David Carr from the Wellcome Trust. Thanks very much, Phil, for that introduction. Wellcome Trust is really delighted to be part of the Open Science Prize, working with Phil's group at the NIH and the Howard Hughes Medical Institute. And I just wanted to say a few very quick words by way of introduction about the Wellcome Trust's kind of passion for open science and our rationale for setting up this prize. If I could have the next slide, please. So for those who don't know us, the Wellcome Trust is an independent global charitable foundation. We're dedicated to improving health, to supporting biomedical research and a range of other activities. And one thing that's always been absolutely sort of fundamentally important to the Wellcome Trust as a research charity is that the outputs of the research we support can be accessed and used in ways that will ultimately achieve the greatest benefit to health and to society. And for that reason, as I'm sure most of you all know, for many years now, the Wellcome Trust has been a passionate and very strong advocate of both open access to research publications and data sharing and making other outputs of research readily available to be accessed and reused. Next slide, please. So I think it's fair to say that there's a really sort of strong and growing consensus amongst funders on the importance of opening up access to data and other research outputs. I think funders are increasingly recognizing the huge challenges associated with managing and extracting value from the vast and growing volumes of data being generated by research, but also increasingly recognizing the sort of massive opportunities for these resources to be used in new and innovative ways that will advance discovery and its health application. As a funder, the Wellcome Trust is sort of really striving to take a sort of partnership approach to working with both other funders and the wider research community to develop the resources and address other barriers, including cultural barriers, needs for the development of skills, ethical issues, and so forth, to enable wider sharing of data and other research outputs. And just a few examples, for example, we've worked to establish the Europe PMC, Open Access Repository, with a consortium of other European research funders. We've been progressing discussions to advance the sharing of public health and epidemiology research data via a grouping of global health research funders called the Public Health Research Data Forum. And we're taking a really active role in working with others to build platforms to enable the greater sharing of clinical trials data. Next slide, please. I think it's fair to say, or certainly the reason we came into the prize was that whilst we think a significant amount of progress has been made through these and other activities in terms of getting research outputs sort of out there, we think there's probably been less attention to date on really sort of creating the platforms and tools needed to enable that content to be reused. We were absolutely delighted to come together with the NIH and the Howard Hughes Medical Institute to also recognize these challenges, and really between the discussions amongst the partner funders, the idea of establishing a prize as a way to sort of stimulate interest and excitement in this field really came about very quickly. So to establishing the prize, we really want to unleash the creative power of innovators around the world to start to develop these tools that will generate new value. We really want to build up a series of compelling exemplars of what can be achieved through open science and really start to sort of demonstrate the potential of that field. We want to foster new international collaborations, as Phil was saying, and we really want to sort of generate sort of new momentum and further investment in this emerging field. So that's all I wanted to say by way of introduction, and I will pass over to Fabiana, who's very kindly serving as one of our expert advisors who will help us assess prize entries to give her thoughts on the importance of open science. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Fabiana Kupke. I'm a neuroscientist at the University of Auckland and the chair of the advisory panel of Creative Commons Aotearoa, New Zealand. 4 years ago, next slide please. 4 years ago, a group of us published a video with a very simple message. There should only be one repository of research in the world to which the scientists would donate their work in order to take what they need. And the ethos of the objectives of this open science resonate very well with that message. Next, please. So why should we care about open science? We traditionally share our research findings in articles in scientific journals. And the printed press has served us really well throughout the years. They provided us with access to knowledge generated around the world. And they also generated the ability for us to exploit that knowledge in innovative ways. This old technology was really the best we had at the time to disseminate our findings as widely as possible. But new technologies now allow individual scientists to have not just wider reach, but also to be able to share a much broader variety of research artifacts like data and code. Next, please. So we start seeing how the old school channels actually start limiting access, and by limiting access, they also limit how far things can reach and the formats in which we can share our work. And this is primarily linked to the legal and financial structures that were built to support the old school technologies that actually they're not well suited for distribution in the digital world. Old school then means limited access, limited opportunities, and limited impact. And so when you think about it, you say, well, this is sort of like a no-brainer. So what's stopping us from maximizing impact? And as an academic community, I think we need to take a little bit of responsibility. We have a lot of inertia. We are facing shrinking budgets, a narrowing bottleneck for career success, a predominant old school publish or perish culture, and all of these end up creating incentives that move us deeper and deeper into traditional ways of measuring value. As research becomes more interdisciplinary and more expensive, we're also losing the ability that we had, believe it or not, a few years back, to actually replicate other people's work in our lab. And so this is a problem because we are conflating unreliable metrics with quality and reproducibility, and this is not the best way to promote impact. Next, please. As a research community, we are so dependent on our traditional ways, and we see little incentives to change. And I always like to write science in this way because I think it indicates what we're doing, which is emphasizing the I in science instead of science itself. How many papers have I published? What did I achieve? And so here's a question that I like to pose to my colleagues. If you were given the chance to cure Alzheimer's or cancer in 2 years, but could not take credit for it, would you do it? And I think that answering yes to that question is the key, is the first step for open science to succeed. Next, please. Open science requires that we move our value system so that it is less about what I have achieved and more about what my work has enabled. It is about understanding that providing wide access to all aspects of my work, I may maximize the quality and impact of what I've done, even if it is not I who scores the winning goal. And that, I think, is the big thing. It's realizing that not everybody scores the goal. It's about understanding that the enterprise of science is collaborating over time and space, and valuing individual researchers not by how many goals they scored, but how much they contribute to the science common, and how others are actually able to use that work to generate impacts. So it's valuing my contribution to the cure of cancer and not giving me the Nobel Prize. So next, please. So it's a no-brainer for me. If public funding is to maximize impact, then we need to maximize opportunities, and we need to provide broad access so that there is an opportunity of using the knowledge in innovative ways. And we need to do this with as few restrictions as possible for distribution and reuse. A change in attitude towards this ethos is really what the Open Science Prize encourages. And I was incredibly pleased to see these three wonderful institutions promoting this change. Next, please. So all of you at this webinar have already taken that first step, at least towards this prize, towards contributing to that change and towards growing the scientific commons. So I'd like to thank all of you for being here. And next, please. Hopefully the next time we meet, we will have reclaimed the word, because open science is really what science is all about. So I'd like to wish all of you the best with your submissions. I look forward to looking at them when my time comes. And I will now pass the microphone to our next speaker. Thank you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Dr. Adia Tienza from the National Institutes of Health, and I will be talking about the more specific details about the Open Science Prize. And we here at the National Institutes of Health are pleased to be collaborating and partnering with the Wellcome Trust as well as Howard Hughes Medical Institute on this very important initiative. Next slide, please. So the Open Science Prize, the overall goal of what we're trying to achieve is to encourage and support the development of prototypes and development of services, tools, and platforms that will enable content to be widely distributed, to be discovered, reassessed, and reused in a number of different ways. And this prize, when we were developing it, we thought it was very important that the open content and the open information not just be siloed in different national boundaries, but also that they extend across national boundaries. And so we are encouraging and requiring, actually, national collaborations to bring open science forward. There are two phases to this prize. Phase one is a conceptual, theoretical phase, and phase two is where we're expecting to have a working prototype available. The total amount of the prize for the whole initiative is $710,000. With phase one, there will be 6 winners or finalists, each receiving $80,000, and for phase two, the one grand winner will receive $230,000. Next slide, please. So the official rules for the Open Science Prize can be found at this URL. The slides will be posted on the Open Science Prize website, which is openscienceprize.org. But the federal notice gives the details for the official rules. All submitters who wish to apply for this prize must register at the openscienceprize.org website. We are requiring, again, an international collaboration in which one member of the team is from the U.S. and one member of the team is from a country other than the U.S. All final entries, again, must be submitted through the challenge website. Phase one, we are requesting and requiring, actually, a written proposal that describes the solution to make data and content more open, and to specify the content that is to be used. And phase two, the 6 finalists will be required to submit a working prototype. Next slide, please. So here's what we're not looking for. We're not looking for solutions that really don't address open science whatsoever, that don't address the widening access to content. Similarly, we are, looking for solutions that are novel. So if you fail to provide assurances and document how your proposal is novel, it will not be successful. We will not consider applications that establish a new open access journal or converting an existing journal or data platform to an open access form, and we will not consider proposals that are focused on maintaining or an existing service or database. Next slide, please. So phase one will be judged on the following criteria. First and foremost, does the proposal advance open science? Next, we'll look at the impact of, the proposed solution. How does it benefit the research as well as biomedical health? Is it innovative? Is it creative? Does it demonstrate novelty? And is it original? There are other, proprietary platforms and tools out there. How does this proposed tool meet an unmet need in an open access way? We'll also evaluate the technical viability of the proposed solutions. Can the proposal actually be delivered? And then finally, does the team have the required skills and the resources to create the prototype to which they are proposing? The process for the review will occur as such that first NIH Wellcome Trust will conduct initial review to see whether the applications are eligible. Next, the panel of expert advisors will provide comments on the technical merits and the feasibility of the various proposed solutions. And then NIH will make the final selection of the 6 finalist winners for phase one. Next slide, please. For phase two, the 6 finals will have 8 months to develop a working prototype based on their written concept. The finals will be asked to submit progress reports and towards the end of phase two, showcase their ideas and technology at an NIH symposium. Once the working prototypes are submitted and made available, there will be a public voting process in which the public will select the top 3 prototypes of the 6 finalists. Then the expert advisors will provide comments again on the prototypes, and finally the NIH and Wellcome Trust will select the 1 grand prize winner based on the judging criteria from phase 1 and as well as descriptions of the prototype. Next slide, please. So we've gathered a top-notch group of expert advisors, all with expertise in open science, open publications, open data, data sharing. So here's a list of the expert advisors who will be providing comments towards the various submissions. Again, not only from the U.S., but we have individuals from around the world, across the globe, to assist us with evaluating and providing comments to the submissions for this prize. Next slide, please. So here are some illustrative examples of things that you can consider as you're going about the development of a submission. And again, these are only purely illustrative, and the prize is open to any idea or tool that seeks to demonstrate the benefits of open science, of creating research with outputs that are open and usable, and to find innovative ways of doing this. But for example, one example that we would welcome is an application and platform that seeks to integrate or repurpose or repackage open scientific content in new ways. For example, a platform that gathers content from open gray literature, maybe scientific abstracts from scientific meetings, or from the NIH reporter, in which there's information available to the public about grants that are currently being reviewed or funded, and to establish peer networks and network node connections that helps researchers identify, who else is working in their field, and to help to establish further collaborations. Another example is a new online platform that enables or facilitates access to de-identified biomedical and health research volunteered by individuals for ways to that allow for researchers as well as like citizen scientists to analyze, share, and mash up the data and for further discovery. And another example is a new tools and platforms that tailor open scientific content to new audiences, and that take into consideration the level of biomedical research literacy. So for the general public, you may have a way to disseminate reliable research information in one way, but for advanced users and those who have expertise in analysis and other researchers, that maybe you have a way to have raw research data available for further analyses, but a way to tailor that information to the different communities and users according to their research literacy level. Next slide, please. So we've made available some resources to assist the potential solvers and applicants in thinking about how to create a proposal and about ways to make open data available. So there are potential data resources that NIH and others have provided, and I believe it's on a publicly available Google Doc file, and it's a way for us to share what is available here at NIH, but a way for others to list data sources that are publicly available to be used. The Department of Health and Human Services has also created a whole infrastructure website portal, actually, called healthdata.gov, in which there is numerous data sets across the federal government, particularly at HHS, that could be used for further reuse and repurposing. We've made a GitHub site available, and this is a way to encourage, if you're looking for a collaboration or a collaborator to participate in this prize with you. This GitHub site is created specifically for that as a auxiliary infrastructure to connect individuals as well to share information. And finally, on the Open Science Prize website, we have some guidance for applicants that gives you more specifics about the Open Science Prize and what is required. Next slide, please. Here's the timeline for the Open Science Prize. We launched the Open Science Prize on October 20th of 2015. Today we're having the webinar to give potential applicants more information about the Open Science Prize. The Phase 1 applications are due on LEAP Day, February 29th, 2016. We will inform the Phase 1 winners by April 30th, 2016, the 6 winners, that they have been selected for the prize. Again, the Phase 1 prize winners will have 8 months to create a viable working prototype, and the best prototype will win the grand prize. There will be a NIH symposium on open science on October 2016, in which the 6 finalists will showcase their ideas as well as the prototypes to which they are working on, and the deadline for the Phase 2 prototypes will be December 2016, with the final announcement of the grand prize winner on February 28th, 2017. Next slide, please. So at this point, we will open it up for questions, comments. Please post your comments on the chat line in WebEx. And we will do our best to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Hi, we're going to go ahead and read the questions we received so far in the order in which we received them.
Okay, first question is, do we submit a letter of intent?
So it is helpful for us to have a letter of intent, so we know that you are interested. We have not made that a requirement, but it is helpful for us to know which applicants will be submitting for the prize for Phase 1.
Okay. David? All right, the next question I have is regarding the international collaboration requirement. What is considered a member?
So each of the team members will have to register for the prize. So you will have to list who is on your team on the registration website. So each team will require to have 2 leaders. One is a U.S. leader and one is a non-U.S. leader, but all team members will have to be listed in accordance with the rules and regulations for the American Competes Reauthorization Act. So you will have to, again, list who is on your team, and those will be the team, quote-unquote, team members.
Okay. Next question, how can we know whether an existing project prototype classifies as an early stage prototype?
Audi, do you want me to have a go at that?
That'd be great, yeah.
Having said that, I'm not sure I can know the answer. I think what I'd encourage anyone interested in doing, if you're not sure whether your sort of prototype is far enough along to constitute an early stage, to fall into that definition of early stage, is to please get in touch with us. I think the best answer I can give is that we're not looking to support something. We're looking to support sort of new, innovative things. So it's fine to have done sort of bit of work on it to develop to a stage. We're not looking to sort of sustain things that are already kind of that are already kind of developed. So so I think it has to be sort of a relatively something relatively new with a clear sort of innovative step and something that sort of that sort of needs a bit of work to get it from the idea stage where you're at to the prototype stage. But I think my best answer is that if you're unsure, please do drop us an email to the Open Science at Welcome address, and the partner funders will discuss and get back to you within a few days, as quickly as we can. Thanks.
Okay, so I have another question. So if accepted, the project must start on May 1st, 2016, or is it possible to postpone the start?
Shall I have a go, Adi? I'd say that I'm afraid that I think the timescale is pretty much set. So I think we are committed to well, the thing that is set is that deadline for the second phase applications. So basically, you have to do the work to develop the prototype within that period. Obviously, how you allocate the time within that period is up to you, but the prototypes will be judged at that time scale. Is that fair, Audi? Would you say?
Yes, that's fair. So the announcement of the phase 1 winners will occur around April 2016, and then soon after, the phase 2 begins. And then how people allocate their time to develop the prototype is up to them, but they must have a working prototype by December 1st, 2016.
Okay, next question. What would be the criteria to win the second phase?
So as we stated in the webinar, there will be 2 aspects to the review of phase 2. First, there will be a public voting process in which the 6 prototypes will have to be made available to the public to use and to try out. And the public will vote to which of the 6, which 3 of the 6 they feel will be the best prototypes. After that, they will have comments from the scientific experts, the expert panel, and then the Wellcome Trust and the NIH will again look at those 6 phase 1 criteria about whether it advances open science, whether it has impact, whether it is innovative, and whether it is feasible. Based on the comments from the expert panel, the Wellcome Trust and the NIH will make the final selection.
Next question. Are you looking for 1, demonstration prototypes that illustrate the future potential of open science, or 2, tools that can be deployed after phase 2 is completed, or both?
I would say either. Both of those things are exactly what we're looking for, but maybe particularly the first one, prototype. Yeah, initially we're looking for prototypes that demonstrate the value of open science. We really hope that that some of those will turn into things that turn into ultimately into services and tools after the end of phase 2, or indeed we hope some of the winning entries from phase 1, even if they don't receive the phase 2 prize, will ultimately will turn into viable products.
Next question. The phase 1 is only a step for doing a proposal, or can we start to make a first demonstrator?
So what is required is a written proposal, but if others are ambitious and have or a first generation alpha prototype, that's always welcome. But what is required right now is a written proposal.
Okay. Next question, is there a required division of labor for the international partner?
I'll have a go. There's no required division of labor. So I think obviously, as Audi said, we do expect it to be a genuine collaboration between certainly the US and the non-US partner. But no, so I think as long as it's a genuine partnership, the division of labor is up to the team themselves to the result.
Okay. Next question: are institutional overhead costs covered from the $80,000, or is that independent from the $80,000?
So the way prizes work here at the National Institutes of Health, institutional overhead is not included. So the prize is $80,000 for phase 1 and total, and $230,000 for phase 2.
Yeah, just to add to that, because I know I've certainly had some inquiries because the Wellcome Trust as a charity usually has quite a strong position on kind of overheads and what we'll pay and what we won't pay. Essentially, it is an award of from our side, certainly an award of that amount, as Howdy says, and it is up to the team how you spend it. But yeah, it's the amounts are $80,000 and pays to $230,000, and yeah, and that is the amount that you have to spend.
Okay. Are all NIH employees excluding from applying for the prize?
So NIH employees or federal government employees are excluded if it's a part of their duties, their normal duties. And if NIH employees do it outside of their normal duties and their tour of duty, it would be important for them to go through their NIH ethics office to just but right, as the American Competes Authorization Act states, federal government employees are, as part of their working duties, are not eligible to participate in government-sponsored prizes.
Okay. Next question, will there be a bias for or against applications from private sector organizations?
Yeah, I think I can say no bias either.
No bias.
Either way. As we've been clearing the thing, teams can include any mix of different types of organizations, and we're open to both private, academic, and mixes of the two.
The best proposals and the best prototype will win, regardless of whether it's from an academic sector, whether it's industry, nonprofit, whatsoever. In prizes that have been sponsored by the federal government in the past, there have been winners who, came from areas to which we had no prior experience with. So anybody can apply for this Open Science Prize if you meet the qualifications and abide by the rules specified by the Federal Register Notice, as well as listed on the OpenSciencePrize.org.
Can a team participate with more than one submission? Can a participant be part of more than one team?
Yes. However, it's important to create the best prototype possible, and if an individual wants to submit more than one, that's fine, but again, each will be judged on its merits and will be judged by its impact to be, we're looking for the best tools and platforms here. So there's no conclusion of individuals from being part of more than one team. But again, you leave that at the discretion of the solvers to, again, come up with the best ideas and prototypes they can.
Okay, if a prototype works and is judged useful, who will pay for implementation?
So I would say that is beyond the scope. I mean, I think there's a number of possible sources depending on the nature of the prototype developed, which could potentially be used. As I think we addressed this in the FAQ on the website, there may well be avenues, if it's appropriate, to come back for the competitive routes offered by the partner funders and other funders. But that's beyond the scope of the prize. The scope of the prize is to support the early development of these ideas.
And we here at the NIH, we hope the same, the view, but we also, have other mechanisms here at NIH to which we encourage those who develop technology to apply for. One is the Small Business Innovative Research grants and contracts, in which provides some funds to evaluate the efficacy and effectiveness of tools for health research. So there are other avenues after the Open Prize, OpenSciencePrize.org, Open Science Prize competition ends, but the dissemination is beyond the scope of this initial prize.
Okay. Next question. Could you discuss a few of the other opportunities at NIH for the non-for-profits?
I'm not quite clear with the question.
Yeah, I don't think that's a question. All right, we're going to skip that question. Do the main applicants have to be part of an institution, or can individuals apply? Will the money be given to a department in the same way as a normal grant?
The individuals can apply, as well as organizations. The funds will go towards the team leads, not towards the institution or organization, if it's academic or institute. The funds will go towards the registers, people who register as part of the team.
Is there a restriction on NIH funding going to the non-U.S. team members?
Is there a restriction for NIH funds to go to non-team members?
Non-U.S. team members.
So the way we structure the process is that the funds from NIH will go to the U.S. Portion of the team, and Wellcome Trust can distribute the funds that they have to their discretion, whether it be U.S. or non-U.S. They don't have that restriction. But so the way we structure the prize is that we're requiring, again, international collaborations, and NIH funds will go to the U.S. portion of the team, and the Wellcome Trust will make the decisions as to where their funds will go.
Yeah.
How will the prototypes be made available for public use?
I will have a go at that. The prototypes that are submitted as part of the at the end of the Phase 1 prize, as Audi said, basically they're the end product of the Phase 1 prize, and they will be opened up to public for the public vote. So they will be available via links from the Open Science Prize website for people to go and look at as part of that process. So I guess that's how we'll sort of provide sort of make the prototypes available when we come to sort of publicize the phase 2 competition and open up the public voting element of it.
And following the prize competition, I believe Wellcome Trust and as well as NIH will highlight the prototypes on our website and provide links to the winning prototypes and the grand prize winner through our websites. So the individuals can access or get information about the prototypes via the NIH website as well as the Wellcome Trust website.
I'm looking. Sorry, I'm just trying to skip through some of the questions that are repetitive.
Okay.
Is the public voting simply a tally of votes, or will it be a star rating system that reflects some level of quality?
I think it is going to be a tally system. To be honest, we're still sorting out the exact details of what that'll look like. But I think it'll be a system whereby people select their top 3 from the list of 6, and it's a counting system.
That's my understanding as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Can groups already funded by Wellcome Trust apply for this prize?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, totally.
Okay. Another question, I was wondering if building a platform generating free data rather than facilitating the access to data already available is acceptable.
I would say that would be within the scope, the prize competition. Again, it's we're looking at Excel, open science and open research, and that would seem to be, within.
Yeah, I just add to that the thing that please, if you're unsure whether your idea is in scope, just do please get in touch with us, and we can get back to you when we, with just a little bit of detail about what you're thinking. We're happy to come back to you with guidance on whether it falls within the criteria or not. But yes, I agree with Audi. Yeah, in theory, yes.
Okay. How wide does the scope of the prototype need to be in? Can it be use of a particular branch of science, human neuroimaging, for example, or should it be broader than that? How useful does it have to be to the public?
I mean, what we want to, what was important for those who are submitting an application is to document the impact and importance of the proposal as well as the prototype. It could be within a particular domain, or it could be much broader. But what's most important is that you provide a justification and rationale for why this will be impactful, how it will be impactful, and why it is important. So we expect to have a broad range of proposals from many different domains, and what we will be looking at is, have they made the case that this proposal for accelerating, advancing open science is important and can have an impact in the particular field to which they are working on.
Yeah.
Okay. How many submissions are you anticipating receiving?
Well, this is an exciting thing for us. We have very little idea. I think it's fair to say. I think it's really encouraging, the amount of interest, and the number of people who have joined us today is really fantastic. So yeah, I mean, we hope to attract a good number and have some and kind of be sport for choice is our ideal scenario. I think it's fair to say. But yes, it's one of the exciting things, certainly for the Wellcome Trust. This is kind of a new thing and a slightly out of our comfort zones on this one. So yeah, we're really excited to see what we get, and we don't have a sort of clear number in mind at the moment.
This is such a cutting-edge new field and a cutting-edge idea, and actually this collaboration that we established between the NIH and the Wellcome Trust with partnerships with Howard Hughes Medical Institute is something that has rarely been done before. And so we are actually really excited to see what we get, see what ideas come up, and look forward to seeing the number of different entries that do come in. because this, again, this is so much in the cutting edge of research, and we really want to see how well we can accelerate and advance open science and make data, information, publications much more available across the ecosystem.
Okay, we have actually a question specifically for David. David, the guidance that you mentioned regarding the scope of the project, who did you mention that people should contact for that?
Oh, so there's an email address on the Open Science Prize website, which is openscience@welcome.ac.uk. So I just encourage anyone with a query to send us an email. We'll then direct that to discuss with the partners and come back to you. So yeah, so that email address is on the front page of the openscienceprize.org website and in the FAQ and other pages. So please do get in touch. Or alternatively, please do feel free to email me directly or call me at the Wellcome Trust, or please don't hesitate to get in touch with any queries at all, and we'll get back to you as quickly as we possibly can.
Okay. You mentioned a distinction between NIH funds to U.S. partners and Wellcome Trust funds. How does this work? Please clarify.
So this gets into the nitty-gritty of the administration of the prize, and there's a whole history behind it. And we at NIH are using the statutory authority of the Recompetes Reauthorization Act to fund this prize. And in that authorization, NIH funds, which are U.S. public dollar taxpayer funds, are required to be given to those who are residents of the U.S., if they're individuals, or if the corporations are incorporated in the U.S. So what's really unique about this prize is our collaboration with an international partner like the Wellcome Trust, in which we're able to work together and partner towards an international collaboration. And the way we structured it is to require an international teams to compete for this. And what also the benefit towards the international collaboration is, because what we hope is that the prototypes and the tools extend beyond national boundaries. But there's a whole process to which we at the NIH are required to go through in order to use appropriated funds. Therefore, there's a distinction between the U.S. NIH funds and the Wellcome Trust funds. But we have worked out the process and the administration to which the U.S. and the Wellcome Trust will both provide funds for this challenge in this prize.
So there's been several questions that people have asked regarding the slides and the recording. They will all be posted to the openscienceprize.org site after the webinar today, and we had about 109 people logged in today for the webinar. We've gotten that question several times, so I figured I would just answer for you guys. And that's all we have for today.
Well, thank you for participating and attending this webinar. We encourage anybody who has additional questions after the webinar to go to openscienceprize.org website. And again, there is an email contact on the openscienceprize.org website should you have any additional questions. And again, we will follow up with you as soon as we can, as soon as possible. and we look forward to seeing what submissions come in. And again, thank you very much. And thank you to PAR, as well as Fabiana Kupke for their presentations on this webinar.